children, the time's come to play here in my garden of shadow.
Creepypasta featuring Johnny Silverhand. Please like and subscribe.
My journey is almost done. I'm leaving a journal to document my experience, and I'm trying to mentally telepath this out to anyone that is open enough to hear this. I need someone to experience what I've gone through, because I know I'm about to hit the end of my story. It started in what I'd call the real world. I love to go for walks. Long walks, short walks, doesn't matter. I live by a large lake, so there's a lot of great trails and scenic views. It doesn't matter if the weather is clear, raining, or overcast. I'll put on the appropriate gear and head into the outdoors. One day I found it, the Evergreen Tree. I have no idea if that's what it's called, but that's what immediately came into my head when I saw it. A massive oak tree that was so out of place it was like it was painted by an angelic Bob Ross. Exactly half of the tree was brimming with life, strong wood, even stronger green leaves spilling in every direction. The other half was as dead as the surviving landscape of a nuclear fallout. Black, scorched bark, topped by empty branches, but absolutely no signs of life. Staring at the tree, I had mixed emotions of dread and hope. Maybe a bolt of lightning struck its centurion, scarring it right down the middle. Maybe it was poisoned somehow, or maybe there was some other worldly force that took half of its life. Something compelled me to move towards it. I wanted to feel its energy. It was all around in the air. At the time, I had been going through several disappointing failures and downfalls in my own life. My job was failing, my relationships were shaky, and my overall health was suffering. This Evertree could grant me a new beginning. All I had to do was touch it and make a wish. So that is what I did. I reached for the tree hesitantly. Initially, my arm pulled back like it was controlled by something other than myself. Finding the silliness of the moment, I thrust my hand onto the tree, closing my eyes and asking the giant to heal my pain. I only asked that I could get a new beginning, to wipe away my ailing family members and ask for forgiveness of my shortcomings. I woke up on the ground in a land I was not familiar with. It looked like my world, but seemed skewed. The sky was violet, the sun was red, and the land was that of what you might find in a place like Death Valley. All being said, I felt amazing. The emotional pain I had just been feeling was gone. I had an amazing feeling of hope. Beat, I heard behind me. Jumping out of my skin, I turned around and saw what I can only describe 1950s-style taxi cab. Yellow in color with that old-school checkered pattern striped down the side. The driver, a female with impossibly pale skin, looked at me with a warm smile.
I'll take you back to where you are going,
She said. Confused, but not scared, I entered the interdimensional cab.
Don't be scared.
She said.
My name is Jill, and I'll bring you home.
I don't think I have any money or ID or anything, I said. She laughed softly.
That doesn't apply anymore. You have entered into the contract. All you need is to hold up your end.
The cab dropped me off at my house. Jill put the cab into park and leaned over her right shoulder to look at me.
From now on, you will have what you wished for. When you need to see the light again, just look for the tree. It will give you what you need. But do not go until you absolutely need to. Abusing your newfound power will only leave you in more pain.
With that, I slowly blacked out again. I sprung out of bed covered in sweat. My surroundings were familiar. My normal-looking bed, My alarm clock I had received for Christmas when I was about 13 was to my left. The bright red numbers showed 7 a.m. Obviously, that was all a very strange dream. The most real dream I've ever had, but a dream nonetheless. Going downstairs, I was amazed to see that my house was pristine. Opening the fridge, I found a full bounty of food and drinks. I never keep my fridge full. I felt like I could run 5 miles without breaking a sweat. My head was clear, no negative thoughts, and no pains that someone my age, about mid-30s, would have. This was going to be a good day. I navigated the day like any other day. My boss commented that I looked great as soon as I got to work. He never has anything to say to me unless a scolding is coming. I shrugged it off, but was happy to get a compliment. I was happy to have any positive interaction from anyone these days. My father called me with good news that my mother was recovering nicely from her recent surgery, with a 100% success rate of survival. What a relief. Only at this time did I have a memory of going to that tree just the day before, or maybe it was weeks before. I really didn't know. I know I had asked for my life to recover, to heal my family, and to heal myself. In an instant, my life had taken a 180-degree turn for the better. Did I acquire some kind of superpower? Something was pulling me to find that evergreen again, to see if I could replicate my experience from before. After work, I would take another walk, take a walk to the Evertree and see if any of this was real. I laced up my walking shoes. It was a nice overcast day, so only a light pair of jogging pants and a long sleeve shirt were necessary. Starting with a brisk walk, the temperature was just sublime. I tilted my face to the sky, attempted to soak up every ray of sunshine that could break through the clouds. After exiting my subdivision, the street that led to the Evertree would not be too far. At this point, I found I was tingling. What a strange sensation. I underestimated the feeling of seeing this tree again, and also I had no idea if I was going to transport to another faraway land or dimension. Would it be the same place? Would it be different? Would I see the taxi driver Jill again? Well, I was going to find out. The corner was coming that, when taken, the tree would appear. All of its glory of the massive foliage on one side, juxtaposed by burnt bark on the other. The problem was, I saw nothing. Where's the damn tree? I just want to see the tree. Okay, man, breathe. Either the thing was taken down by the city because it's obviously dead, or you somehow have the wrong street. That's when I snapped back to reality. You know, this is the right street, I told myself. Jill, the taxi driver, entered my mind. She said something like, you will only find a tree when you absolutely need to. Well, I thought, I need to. I need to see the Evertree. I still have more to fix. Yes, I feel good. Yes, my family is getting better. But I have more work to be done. Laying awake that night, I stared into the abyss of my dark room. One moment, I was conscious. The next moment, I was walking through a dark alleyway. The place was somewhat familiar, maybe something to do with work. As I walked through the alleyways, I saw nothing but naked baby dolls. Not the porcelain ones, but the plastic-looking ones that should have little dresses on. The ones where the eyes move creepily. Alarm, 7 a.m. Sun is bright, no more dark alleyways. I called into work. I think I can find where the tree is. When I was a kid, my younger sister played with mini dolls. The same that I envisioned last night. I'm currently on my way to my hometown. The house we lived in isn't there anymore. It was demolished to make way for a new, more modern development. But I think there's something there I will find familiar. I parked at the local 7-Eleven. about a block from my childhood home. So much nostalgia here. I took off towards the park near the old house. There it was in such glory, the Evertree. I thought to myself, I need to be complete. I need comfort, money, and stability. But just a step away from the tree, I barely touched it with the tip of my finger before I blacked out. Waking up in a shallow lake, I gasped for breath. Immediately, purging whatever water was found its way into my lungs. Have you seen the movie Interstellar? That's what this place looked like. I was in endless miles of water. As far as I could see in all directions was placated by water. The sky was gray. I was comforted, though. I knew I had another chance to get what I wanted. Visualizing my new life, one filled with unlimited wealth and maybe power, I heard it. Beep. Smiling, I calmly got to my feet in the shallow water. Turning to my right, my eyes met the gaze of my taxi driver friend.
Tread lightly, my dear,
She said, smiling at the pun. I made my way towards the checkered cat.
Where to?
She said, Home again, Jill. All I needed was to see the Evertree again.
Okay, hon.
I sensed a bit of an eye roll, but I dismissed it. Hot air rose from my feet to my face, and before I knew it, I was in my bed again. I found over 100 emails, texts, and missed calls across my various devices. I deleted all of them. All I needed was to open one, my bank account info. A warm smile spread across my face. My current balance showed over 7 figures, more than the normal 3 or sometimes 4 when I was lucky. Thank you, Evertree. The next month was the most amazing of my life. I wish I enjoyed it more. You know how lottery winners always seem to blow all of their winnings and end up right back where they started, or worse, dead? And we all scoff at them. How could you blow that? I have to pay off all my bills, buy a house for cash, etc., etc. Well, now having everything I've ever wanted, I can tell you that it's never enough. Money and power don't fix anything. Sure, it can make you comfortable, but the clock is ticking. I'll spare you my fall from grace. All you need to know is I'm still looking for the Evertree. She is my only salvation, if only to get me to where I started. I didn't ask for this. Oh, okay, not specifically. You know what I mean. I've been hiking, walking, driving for days. I can't sense the tree anymore. I haven't seen a yellow cat. I haven't seen any cats. I think of this. I'm sick every day. My family won't talk to me. It was a good ride.
Wake up.
I snapped out of my slumber so fast I think I threw my back out. Looking around, I only saw black, total void. But I recognized the voice. Jill, I said. I couldn't see her, but I could tell she was smiling.
I warned you, didn't I? You won't be able to find the Evertree again. It has to go to someone else, someone that won't abuse it. You voided your contract, but you are still tied to the spirit of the tree. You will probably have some strange feelings in the coming days. Not like this whole thing hasn't been strange.
She let out a giggle.
There will be another that will find the Evertree soon. You'll feel it. You'll let it happen. You weren't the first, and certainly not the last. So for one last time, I'm taking you home.
Boom. I'm on the floor next to my bed. I don't know how much time has passed. I only know I have an earth-shattering headache and what feels like an army of bees inside my entire body. I shift myself painfully to lay on my back, staring at the ceiling. A small smile parts my lips, which turns into a full-blown Joker maniac laugh. I said this may be the end of my journey, and I'm happy for whomever finds the Evertree again. I'm happy because when you do, I will be there, and I will kill you.
I need to get some weight off of my chest. And honestly, I don't know where else it would be appropriate or believed than here. I'm probably telling you all this out of spite due to funding cuts, but that doesn't change the fact that the public shouldn't be left in the dark anymore. I'm a postdoctoral researcher in STEM biology specifically. I don't want to give too many details since I actually want to make it through telling you these experiences before someone decides I'm a little too persuasive and gets rid of me. Sorry to say, I can't tell you which school I did my PhD, but I can tell you that it was in the United States, that I am American, and that it was one of those effed up graduate-only institutions. Medical and PhD mostly. The idea of doing fantastic science and maybe getting a Nobel was too much to pass up. I mean, I couldn't let that excellent speech I came up with in the shower go to waste, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, science is great and all. If it was just science, but academia and basic research aren't really all that empirical. You remember alchemy? It was like half magic and half chemistry. That's what it's like. There's a lot of supernatural and fucked up shit that happens in the science buildings, in institutions, even more so if it's one of these graduates only ones. The supernatural is surprisingly drawn to the world of objective truths and observations. I don't know if it's 'cause they just like fucking with us and showing us how much we don't know that our big brains mean nothing, or if it's a way for them to understand us and themselves. As such, most successful scientists throughout history have been those who tapped into the supernatural to boost their knowledge or success. And I do mean most. Galileo, Gregor Mendel, Isaac Newton, even Feynman dabbled in more than hallucinations. I think the Scientific Society of the Flayed God is still pretty pissed that he blew them off after the stunts they pulled to recruit him. I'll get to them a little later, but there's a sect on every academic campus. You may be wondering how you've never heard of any of these events, and that's probably for good reason. Science communicators and professors have a secondary role besides educating the public. They make sure to disavow or make anyone who exposes this shit seem uncredible at best. At worst, they just make you disappear. Poof. Never seen again. Sometimes they stage your death if you're lucky. I say lucky because they're usually tamer than what they could do, and at least your family will get some closure. I guess I should start with a couple of stories from when I was in graduate school. Number 1. The first encounter I had as a PhD student was with marionette. Scientists aren't strangers to working late, graduate students and postdoctoral fellows especially. A lot of those great papers usually come from at least one sleepless night or two, while professors and lab heads usually rush out around 5 p.m. Some of you might admire that type of passion, but I can tell you that passion has nothing to do with it. It's fear. It's circumstance. It's being trapped in your goddamn lab till 3 a.m. Sorry, let me bring it back. After choosing a dissertation lab, I was learning a lot of methodologies and was a bit too enthusiastic about troubleshooting. The sun had gone down hours ago, and I pulled off a latex glove to pull to check the time on my phone. 11 p.m. I decided that was enough for the day and packed up my things to head down to the first floor, our lab being on the second. Now, some of these buildings are beautiful during the day, but absolutely terrifying at night. Everything echoes. The hair on your neck is always standing on end, and there's a feeling that you're being watched that makes you look around constantly. I wasn't a fan of any of it. So I rushed down the steps, my eyes glued to my phone as I approached the glass door before something made me look up as my hand reached the bar handle. A few feet from the door, staring right at me, was a ridiculously tall, thin woman in a dirty white gown. Her hair was disheveled and fell around a disturbingly large grin. Her pale arms were grossly long. I mean, her wingspan could have blocked the entire entrance to the outside and then some. She held her hands up, playfully wiggled her fingers, and from under her gown slid a puppet. It looked incredibly lifelike as it bowed and did an unsettling jig. Something just wasn't right as its head spun as it danced. I was completely transfixed when it took a bow and gestured for me to join it. I was able to snap myself out of it and backed away. I hurried back upstairs to the second floor where I hoped I could hurry to another side exit a little way down the hall. I couldn't get to my car easily from there, but screw it, I thought. If I ran fast enough, I could make a break for the hospital down the street, catch a rideshare home. I descended another set of stairs, and as I got to the door, there she was again. This time, sitting on her haunches behind her puppet, its hands on its hips, leaned to one side quizzically. She nodded at me to come outside. Once again, I sprinted upstairs and this time headed for the main entrance. I opted for the stairs instead of the elevator and burst into the lobby, which was surrounded by glass walls that faced the vehicle entrance. I took a walk around the inside of the lobby, trying to peek around the concrete pillars out front where I heard a soft tap, tap, tap coming from the glass pane a few feet from me. There it was again, right up against the glass, but now I could see it fully. It was the puppet. It was the corpse of a young woman. Her torn face pinned back into a grotesque smile, her eyes reflecting the agony of her last moments. The woman was peeking from behind one of the concrete pillars. Even from inside, I could hear her raspy, childlike voice. I hadn't planned on staying the night, but I also wasn't stupid enough to think I could outrun whatever the hell she is. Hell, I'm still not convinced there aren't multiple of her, some experiment gone wrong, or a gangle of entities drawn to places of research. I acquiesced and headed back upstairs toward the break room. It at least had a couple of couches for me to sleep on and a couple of vending machines so I wouldn't go hungry. A postdoc, who I had seen several times during the day, was cleaning out a bowl at the sink.
Staying late too, huh?
He looked over as he grabbed some paper towels. I nodded and fell onto the couch behind him. He took another glance at me before speaking again.
At least you're smart enough not to try and push past her. Don't worry, she's gone by 3 a.m. On the dot. Every time.
He opened a cabinet and tossed me one of his Raymond packages.
Just try to plan your experiments around her next time. Or make sure you bring something to make yourself comfortable. Sometimes it's just unavoidable.
We spent the night talking and became fast friends. Still talk to him today. I learned that everyone called her Marionette for obvious reasons. From what I've gathered from conferences, that thing has been cited at every research building around the globe. Some call her a witch, others are convinced she's someone called Baba Yaga, others think she represents the spirits of those from clinical trials gone wrong. When I described her and her puppet to my advisor, he clicked around on his computer and made a phone call to administration. The puppet's description matched a student that had been missing for 3 days, all the way from Florida. Can you believe that? Much to my previous and current boss's chagrin, I make sure I am nowhere near a research building late at night anymore. My work-life balance is much too important. Number 2. This next one is probably the saddest and most gruesome of them. A couple of times a year, we would invite elementary school kids up with their teachers and chaperones to tour the campus and take a look at the labs to inspire them to become scientists one day. I know, absolutely fucked, but scientific discovery must go on, I suppose. These are usually kids from underprivileged schools, schools for kids with hearing disabilities, blindness, etc. Extra precautions under the guise of lab safety were taken. A handful of select labs were picked, and the school would map the route the kids would take and place totems at intervals to ward off any supernatural events. As long as they follow the route, there are usually no problems. If you've ever been to one of these yourself, you may have noticed different knickknacks on people's desks, on office doors, or above building entrances, explained away as quirks students and professors use to make the space more fun. First, hearing the word fun from most professors should make you immediately suspicious. I've been to enough get-togethers and parties that were just excuses to ask you about work to know that no one knows what that word means. Second, they always make graduate students, some of them too new to really know the ins and outs of this visit, do these tours, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. In my second year, I had promised one of the senior grad students, Melissa, I would help out and learn the ropes. We had divided the kids and their chaperones into small groups of about 6 per grad student to begin taking them through the labs. Now, I don't know if enough people didn't volunteer or if a professor completely dropped the ball, but one of the tours was left to a student in the same cohort as me named Jordan. We didn't worry much because apparently this was idiot-proof and we were all smart people with enough common sense. Our group was one of the first to head out while the rest stayed behind and talked with the kids in one of our larger lecture halls over catered sandwiches. Jordan was one of those groups who stayed behind, so we told him we'd see him in a bit and headed out. Our kids had a great time. Their eyes grew wide at all the bright fluorescent images under microscopes. They gasped and squealed at the preserved organs and mice in jars, and spaced out completely while one of the professors went into too much detail for far too long about his work. We got back to the lecture hall, and the kids ran to see their friends from the other groups and regale others who were about to set out with tales of what they saw when I noticed Jordan sitting in the front on his phone, stuffing his mouth with food. Concerned, Melissa headed over to grab his attention. "Hey, Jordan, shouldn't you still be taking your group through the tour?"
They sent another guide as we got outside, so he took care of them.
He said with his hand over his mouth.
Seemed like a nice guy. Got sent over at the last minute, I guess.
What? No one was sent at the last minute. Every guide that's supposed to be here is here. Even so, he'd have a badge. Did you see a badge? Melissa exclaimed.
No, but he had his lab coat on, and adult chaperone was still with the kids, so I'm sure they're fine.
Jordan, Melissa tensed. There was no one else on that list or replacements. Of that I'm sure. They don't do last minute. Just please tell us what he looked like and where they started. Did they head towards the first lab? Jordan sat and thought for a moment before saying he couldn't remember the man's face. He remembered looking at him directly the whole time they spoke, and yet, as soon as he turned around, poof, a blank slate. What he did remember was that he had a weird gait. He walked with a forward swivel and was extremely bow-legged. His arms flayed out a bit as he walked, never completely at his sides. While standing still, he would rotate his wrists in opposite directions every so often in an inaudible, soft crackle. When he handed the tour group over to him, he said he headed toward the new research building they were constructing across the street. They had only furnished the first floor with benches so far, but he thought the man wanted to show them where some of the old labs would be moving to. As the man turned and led them across the grass, he heard him whilst on odd tune before saying,
"You have to reckon with the past before you can build the future." Honestly, it's pretty inspiring that he pushed through his disabilities to make it this far. We need more like him.
Jordan took a bite of the pickle on his plate. The look on Melissa's face grew fearful, and we left to alert the faculty. They told us it would be best if the school sorted this out themselves. So, we all broke off into a full campus search. Melissa, Jordan, and I headed toward the new construction to make sure they hadn't gotten lost on the way, secretly hoping they were being held hostage by an overenthusiastic street performer. The building looked completely undisturbed. Hell, the doors were still locked. But after a quick walk around, Jordan said he could see movement through one of the windows. We alerted the campus police, and they came to have a look inside. They hadn't been inside more than 5 minutes before one of the officers rushed out and vomited onto the sidewalk. The other officer was close behind, his face filled with a terror and disgust I have yet to see on anyone else. They asked us to get back while they called for backup, and soon officers were swarming the entire area, but said they found no trace of the man. Forensics teams came shortly after while we stuck around. Their entrance was followed by exclamations of horror. They came out solemnly with several 500 milliliter and 2-liter flasks filled to the brim with viscera. The smell was horrid, even outside. Melissa immediately began sobbing. I was too focused on keeping my own food down, and Jordan was as rigid as a statue. Apparently, what Jordan saw moving was one of those old rotating water baths used to grow bacterial cultures, except it was the flasks filled with a fucking slurry of human parts. They did a DNA test and it matched the students and the chaperone that went missing. Since they couldn't find a trace of the guy Jordan saw, and Jordan himself was in the lecture hall the whole time after he left, they had no suspects. There was a manhunt that lasted all of 1 month before they gave up completely. The school was sued, and from what I heard, they settled out of court with the families. A few of the parents got together for a candlelight vigil. I heard the partner of the chaperone was too distraught and never came, only to later find out one of their kids was in the group as well. A couple of days before the vigil, they had climbed into a bath with a bottle of sleeping pills and vodka. Just couldn't take it anymore. Jordan dropped out a few weeks later. He decided to go into hospitality. I hear he's a hotel manager now. Melissa finished about 2 years later, but left academia completely. Never gave a tour again in that time, and could only glare at Jordan without ever speaking a word to him. I took over for her, feeling it was my duty to make sure that never happened again. The building went unfinished, and they still haven't decided what to do with it. Newer students and visitors say they've seen a bow-legged man with a strange gait at random places on campus, trying to lead them away toward the construction site. Thank you so much to Johnny Silverhand for doing this video with me. I will leave his link down in the description below. Please do give the video a like, subscribe if you're new here, and I'll see you in the next one.